Have you ever tried mending a torn shirt by yourself? Did you find threading the needle to be surprisingly tricky? Don't worry. Welcome to Hack and Craft. Today I'll show you a few tricks to make it super easy. Let's dive in and see which one works for you. Surely, in every household, there's a sewing kit lying around somewhere, along with a few spools of colorful thread. Am I right? And of course, mending small tears in clothes, stuffed animals, or any fabric item is something that happens all the time, isn't it, folks? Honestly, who hasn't found themselves holding a needle and thread, squinting at that tiny hole, wishing it were just a little bit bigger? And let's be honest, if your hands aren't particularly steady or if your eyesight isn't what it used to be, especially for those of us who are a bit nearsighted, well, this task can feel nearly impossible. Have you ever spent more time trying to thread the needle than actually sewing? Oh, I know I have. But don't you worry, because every problem, yes, every single one, has a solution. Instead of struggling to poke one end of the thread through the tiny eye of a needle, why not try laying the thread flat across the palm of your hand? Then hold the sharp end of the needle and gently rub the eye of the needle back and forth across the thread. After a few passes, like magic, the thread will slip right into the eye of the needle. Now, all you have to do is gently pull one end of the thread through, and you're done. Isn't that neat? But in our sewing kit, we don't just have one needle, right? So what if the needle has an even smaller eye? Would that make things more difficult? Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up. Now I'm going to try this little trick again, but this time with a needle that has a much smaller eye, just to see how well it works. We'll follow the exact same steps as before. Lay the thread across the palm of your hand, and with the other hand, hold the pointed end of the needle and rub the eye of the needle firmly back and forth across the thread. Let's find out together. Will it still work as smoothly? What do you think? The thread has slipped right through the eye of the needle. Now, all we need to do is gently pull one end of the thread through. And just like that, we're done. Pretty satisfying, isn't it? Have you ever tried this trick before? Or is this your first time seeing action? So, what if you're in the middle of sewing and suddenly want to switch to a different thread color? Do you really have to unthread the needle and start all over again? Well, not necessarily. Let me show you a smarter way to do it. Stick around, because this little trick might just save you loads of time and frustration. I'm going to stretch out the thread that's already been threaded through the needle, making sure the needle stays right in the center. Then I'll grab one half of the thread with my fingers. On the other half, the side we're letting go, I'll place the new thread that we want to switch to. Now, here comes the clever part. I'll wrap the old thread around the needle a few times and then gently pull the end I'm holding. And just like that, the new thread slides right through the needle's eye. Isn't that neat? If you're finding this trick useful so far, let me know in the comments. I love hearing from crafty minds like yours. Because we laid the new thread across the old one, the one we wrap around the needle, when we pull the old thread, it naturally drags a new thread right through the eye of a needle. It's almost like a little magic trick, but with science and a touch of creativity. Have you ever seen this method before? Great choice. The bristles from a broom are surprisingly versatile, aren't they? Cutting a piece of that cord can give us the perfect material for our next trick. Now, let's see how we can make the most of it. Cutting just the tip of the straw will give us a neat little piece to work with. It's always good to make sure we dispose of the rest properly, too. Let's keep things tidy and eco-friendly. What's the next step in your creative project? Great. By folding the string in half and threading it through the cut straw, you're setting yourself up for something creative. What's the next step after this? I'm curious to see where this is going. Perfect. Cutting off the excess string to keep things tidy. Now, I'm going to heat the end of the plastic tubing to melt it a little. The high temperature will cause the plastic to soften and melt, allowing us to bond the fishing line securely to the tube. Now let's give it a try. I'll carefully thread the folded fishing line through the needle's eye. You'll want to be really careful here, just like threading a needle with regular thread. See? It's working perfectly. Have any of you had a moment like this when a tricky task finally works out? Let me know if you face challenges like this in your DIY projects. It's always great to share tips. I'm going to insert the thread into the fishing line that's already passed through the needle and then gently pull the fishing line through. You'll notice it slides right through with ease. At this point, the fishing line will act as a small hook, making it incredibly easy for us to pull the thread through the needle's eye. Isn't it amazing how such a simple trick can make a task like threading a needle so much easier? All right, let's step it up a bit and try it with a needle that has an even smaller eye. But don't worry, the steps stay exactly the same. I'll start by threading the thin nylon line through the eye of the needle. Looks easy enough, doesn't it? And from here, the rest is a breeze. Just place your thread into the loop of the nylon line and pull it back through. That's it. Job done. Have you ever thought threading a small needle could be this smooth? Let me know in the comments if you've tried it. Now, let's move on to the next trick. Here, I have a piece of electrical wire. I'm going to strip off the rubber coating to reveal the copper wire inside. Make sure to strip off a decent length so we have enough to work with. One piece of wire will be enough for this trick. Now, let's grab some scissors and cut it. Are you following along? Have you ever done this before? Or is this your first time trying it out? And the next item we need is a paper clip. I'll be using it to secure the copper wire in place. I'll fold the wire like this, and then I'll fold the remaining part of the wire neatly and use the paper clip to hold it together. It's a simple trick, but it gets the job done. Have you ever used a paper clip for something other than its intended purpose? Let me know in the comments. I'm always curious about new uses for everyday items. This trick is quite similar to the one we did before. The roll of the copper wire is similar to that of the fishing line, and the paper clip acts like the end of the straw. We'll use it as a small hook to pull the thread through the eye of the needle. Now, just pass the thread through and pull the copper wire back, and you're good to go. How simple and effective is that? How cool is it that such a simple trick can save so much time? If you found this helpful, leave a like and let me know in the comments if you've got any similar hacks to share. There, it's done. Now, let's move on to a needle with an even smaller eye. Don't worry, the steps are still the same. We'll just adjust the twisted wire a little bit, making it slimmer to fit the smaller hole. Then, simply thread it through the needle's eye. Too easy, right? Now just slip your thread through the loop, pull the wire back, and you're done. Have you tried this method yet? If not, maybe it's time to give it a shot. Tell me how it goes in the comments. What would you do with this pill blister after you finish the medicine? Throw it away? Well, hold on. Don't be in a hurry to toss it just yet. I'll cut a small piece like this first, then sharpen one end. Let's adjust a little, making sure the tip is nice and sharp. This is crucial because the sharper the end, the easier it will be to guide the thread through the needle. Have you ever tried making your own sewing tools at home? On that sharp end, I'll carefully use scissors to make a small slit. I'll call this a tiny groove to place the thread in. This little trick is about to make threading even easier. Have you ever thought about using a small item like this to help with your sewing? Let's see how it works. We need to be really meticulous because the sharp tip will be used to pierce through the eye of the needle. It's essential that the small groove we just made fits through the hole in the needle. Once that's done, we can place the thread into the groove and pull the thread through to the other side. Have you ever had a sewing project that seemed so complicated at first, but then once you got the technique down, it felt like a breeze? It's all about those little tips and tricks that make the process smoother. Are you excited to give this method a try? Let me know how it goes in the comments. In general, this pill blister is just like a little hook. We'll use it to hook the thread from one side of the needle to the other. This one's a bit trickier than the last two. Folks, since the blister pack material is a bit thicker, it can be a little tough to slide the thread into that tiny groove and pull it through. But hey, don't give up just yet. Give it a little patience and a steady hand. You'll get there. Come on, just a little more effort. And there we go. We did it. Isn't it satisfying when persistence pays off? Now let's move on to a needle with an even smaller eye, shall we? Since the hole is quite tiny, I'm going to tweak our little hook just a bit. I'll take a pair of scissors and sharpen the tip to make it nice and pointy, just enough to get through that narrow space. But don't worry, the steps remain the same. We'll slide the sharp end of our hook to the eye of a needle, gently place the thread into the tiny groove we made earlier, and then carefully pull it back through. Simple, clever, and satisfying. Don't you just love it when a small trick makes a big difference? Now, let's move on to the final tip of today's video. Here I have a sticky notepad. I'm going to take one sheet and let's cut off the sticky part because we won't be using that. Folding it like this makes it much easier to cut. Have you ever found sticky notes to be more useful than you originally thought? Sometimes these little items can surprise us with their versatility. What other simple tools do you use for creative purposes? Share your thoughts with me in the comments. In this step, I'm going to cut a diagonal line. Follow along and see how I do it. First, we'll use a ruler and pen to draw a diagonal line. This will give us a sharp triangle shape, and we're going to cut out that triangle. Make sure to fold the paper first, and when you cut, be sure to cut both sides. It's amazing how something as simple as a piece of paper can turn into a useful tool, right? After cutting, we'll have a triangular piece of paper like this. Now, open the paper and place the thread exactly along the fold. It's interesting how something so simple can be used in such a clever way, don't you think? carefully thread the sharp end of the paper through the needle's eye. This trick is a little different from the others, isn't it? I'm going to hold the thread in place and place it exactly along the fold of the paper. Then we'll push the sharp end of the paper through the needle's hole, which will act as a tool to guide the thread through. Unlike the other tricks, where we use a hook-like tool to first go through the hole, here the sharp edge of the paper is doing all the work, directly pushing the thread through. All right, now let's put this to the test with a needle that has a smaller eye, just to see how well it works, shall we? With this little paper piece. There's no need to trim or adjust anything. We'll just follow the same steps as before. As always, take it slow and steady. Add a little finesse, and you'll get it through in no time. Isn't it amazing how even the tiniest tools can do the trick with just a bit of care? And just like that, we've turned threading a needle into a fun and easy task, right? Here at Hack and Craft, we believe every challenge can be tackled with a little creativity. If you found these tips useful, give them a try and share your own tricks with us. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on the next awesome hack. See you on the next creative journey. Thanks for joining us here at Hack and Craft.